In this video, we will cover the step-by-step process of downloading, installing, and setting up the latest Ubuntu operating system using VirtualBox running on your Windows 10 computer. This is a very beginner's guide, so it will be useful for a lot of new starters who want to try Ubuntu for the first time, and once you get familiar with Ubuntu, you can follow the same steps to install it on physical hardware. The first thing to do is to get VirtualBox installed. I created another video to install VirtualBox. You can check out this video. I also have the link of this video in the description below. The next thing to do is to grab a copy of Ubuntu Server. Open your browser and go to ubuntu.com. Go to Download menu, click on Get Ubuntu Server. Click on Download Ubuntu Server 22.04 LTS to begin the download. After you downloaded the Ubuntu Server ISO, let's create the virtual machine. Go to Start menu and search VirtualBox to start up VirtualBox. This should open the VirtualBox Manager, the interface from which you will administer all of your virtual machines. In the top right of the VirtualBox Manager, click on New. Give your virtual machine a name. I'll name it Ubuntu 22.04 LTS Server. The two drop-down menus should automatically update. Click Next. The wizard will now ask you to select the amount of memory in megabytes to be allocated to the virtual machine. I chose 4096 megabytes, which is also 4 gigabytes. Click Next and you will be prompted to add a virtual hard disk to the new machine. Make sure that Create a Virtual Hard Disk Now is selected, then click Create. Now we need to choose the file type for the new virtual hard disk. Make sure that VDI, VirtualBox Disk Image, is checked. And click Next. On the next screen, dynamically allocated means whether the new virtual hard disk should grow as it is used. Or fixed size, if it should be created at its maximum size. Make sure that dynamically allocated is selected, then click Next. Finally, select the size of the virtual hard disk. The default size of 10 gigabytes is not enough. Increase this to 30 gigabytes. Then click Create. You should find yourself back in the VirtualBox Manager. You should be able to see your newly created virtual machine listed on the left. Now we need to mount the Ubuntu ISO file that we downloaded earlier. Make sure your virtual machine is selected. Go to Settings, then on the left panel, go to Storage. On the storage devices, select the empty storage. And then on the optical drive, click on the disk icon beside it and select Choose a disk file. And now, select the Ubuntu ISO file that you downloaded earlier. And click on Open. And then, click OK. Now, let's start the virtual machine. Make sure your virtual machine is selected and press Start. Once the machine is started, you will see the grub menu. You can use tab or arrow keys on your keyboard to navigate your selection. Select Try or Install Ubuntu Server. Then press Enter. Select the language you prefer. Here we have selected English. Once the language is selected, press Enter. Here you should select a keyboard layout. I'm selecting English US as I'm using an English keyboard. If you are not able to find your keyboard layout on this list, then you can click on Identify Keyboard option. Once the keyboard is selected, press Done. Next, you should choose between the default install that contains set of packages and a minimized version, which has been customized to have a small runtime footprint. Choose the Ubuntu server for the default install and press Done. Here Ubuntu will attempt to configure the network connections. Normally you can just accept the default and select Done. If your system requires a proxy to connect to the internet, enter its details here. I don't use proxy, so I'm just going to select Done here. If you wish to use an alternative mirror for Ubuntu, you can enter the details here. Otherwise, accept the default mirror by selecting Done. I'll just accept the default. The installer can guide you through partitioning an entire disk, or, if you prefer, you can do it manually. If you choose to partition an entire disk, you will still have a chance to review and modify the results before Ubuntu is installed. I'll select Use an entire disk here. You can optionally instruct the installer to set up the disk as an LVM group, as well as to encrypt it using LUKS. I chose to go with the LVM setup, as LVM offers a number of benefits, such as create, resize, or delete LVM partitions from the command line, while your Linux system is running. I'll accept the default here and select Done. As this is a destructive action, Ubuntu will ask to confirm. Select Continue to confirm. Here you are required to enter your name, your server's name, your username, and password. Fill these details out as you see fit, then select Done. Here we have a chance to install the Open SSH Server package. We'll need this to connect to the virtual machine via SSH later on, so ensure that you select it. You also have the opportunity to import your SSH keys from GitHub or Launchpad. I selected No for this option. Then select Done. Here you can select from a list of popular snaps to install on your system. Snaps are self-contained software packages that work across a range of Linux distributions. I will not select any here, and I'll just proceed and select Done. And that's it. The installer will now install Ubuntu 22.04. This process will take around 3 minutes. You can fast forward if you like, but I recommend you watch through the process so you will be familiar. Once it is finished, you should select Reboot Now. Ubuntu will ask you to remove the installation medium. You can ignore the failed error and press Enter. Once your virtual machine has rebooted, as you have noticed that there are some logs on the screen, you just need to press Enter to show the login prompt. Now, let's try to log in. The next step is to give our Ubuntu server an IP address on our local network. To do this, power off the virtual machine using sudo power off command. Then, in VirtualBox Manager, make sure your machine is selected, and click Settings. Click on Network on the left and change the setting Adapter 1. Change NAT to Bridge Adapter and click OK. Now, start up your virtual machine. Log into the virtual machine. Once logged in, enter IP address command and note the IP address assigned to your main network adapter. In my case, it's 192.168.0.50. You can now connect to your server remotely via SSH using the IP address that you have. That's all for now. If this video helped you in any way, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.